It's the simple obstacle in the way. Why? Because they forget. They forget, wait a minute, if I had this prompting, then there should be a way to accomplish the thing that the Lord has commanded me to do. As we get farther and farther along our path, we find that some of these obstacles get a little bit bigger before we finally reach our full potential. So let me talk about 4 of these things. I want to categorize these 4 things, these obstacles that we end up running into. First one is fear. I think it's the most important one because when we get rid of the other 3, fear is the only thing that's left that's standing in the way of achieving our goal or the thing that we're supposed to do. Second one is blaming. Love that picture. Third one, complaining. That cell phone looks like it's about 8 years old. And justification. For example, this young lady is justifying wearing immodest clothing. No, I'm just kidding. Just want to throw that in there. So fear, what's the opposite of fear? Faith, right? Simple things. We talk about this all the time. If you're afraid of something or you have fear, what you've got to do is increase your faith. Something we teach. Well, what happens? We have this ingrained fear of failure that's inside of us. It prevents us from taking risks. Where does it come from? It's an inherited behavior. It's pressure. A lot of it actually comes from World War II, World War I. What happened? What did we say to the troops? Get in there. You've got to succeed. You can't fail. What does Grandpa always teach? You can't fail. What did Mom and Dad grow up teaching? You can't fail. What am I teaching? You can fail all you want. It doesn't really matter. Like, what's the big deal? Right? But we have this ingrained fear of failure. We're scared to fail. But we also know that risk is necessary for any type of progression or growth. And it requires trust in a correct principle or path from an authoritative source, right? That's why, if you believe the Scriptures to be true, you may exercise faith, you may follow a certain principle, you may test it, and then you have an experience that says, great, this works out, I've exercised my faith, I've actually gotten the reward back from it. Couple experiences from the Scripture. 1, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Simple enough, 2 Timothy 1:7. Doctrine and Covenants. This is what happened when Joseph Smith lost the 116 pages, right? He had a goal in mind, but then he decided to vary from it. Why? What happened? Come on, you guys got to know that. Give me something. He kept questioning, who was bugging him? Martin Harris, he was bugging him, right? Is that the Lord bugging him? No, it's a man bugging him. Pretty simple, right? So he gives him this counsel, and he says, behold, you have been entrusted with these things, but how strict were your commandments? In other words, you were given a prompting, you were given an assignment, you knew what was in your mind, what you were supposed to do, and your commandments were pretty strict along the way. And remember also the promises which were made to you, right? So you get that prompting in your mind, you think, wait a minute, I'm feeling I need to move forward with this. What are some of the blessings associated with it, right? And then you end up in daydream land. You think, wow, and then I could buy a house, and I could do this, and I could do this, okay? Those are some of those blessings that the Spirit will give us so that we can see what's going to happen, right? So Joseph Smith knew some of those blessings. So he says, remember also the promises which were made to you if you did not transgress them. And behold, how oft you have transgressed the commandments and the laws of God and have gone on in the persuasions of men. Right? So here's the prophet Joseph kind of getting in trouble a little bit because he had the assignment, he had the prompting, he knew what he was supposed to do, he ran it through that arm of the flesh, man filter, if you will. For behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men set at naught the counsels of God and despise His words, yet you should have been faithful. And here's a cool promise. When you follow these promptings, as you're deciding what to do in your life, and He, meaning the Lord, would have extended His arm and supported you against what? All the fiery darts of the adversary, and He would have been with you in every time of trouble. Make sense? So again, going back, we've got the goal in sight. We start heading toward the goal. Satan gets in the way. There's a little discouragement. We start running it through our man filter. I call it that. That's where we decide, hey, this is what I want to do with life. This is what I want to figure out with life. But then we start asking friends and neighbors, start counseling with all these different people, start reading all these self-help books, start looking at everybody else's experience, and we forget that somewhere in there the Lord's telling us exactly what we need to do, what works for our life.